Shabbat Shalom. Just takes a little bit of time to get used to a different setup than we have been using for a little while and where everything is going. And we are actually entering quite a new time. And if you wait just 1 second, if you noticed, during the candle lighting, you might have noticed a shofar has appeared on the bima. It is not Rosh Hashanah today, but we are rapidly approaching Rosh Chodesh of the month of Elul. And Elul is the last month of the year, the last month of 5,781. And there is tremendous amounts of tradition in this month of Elul, that we are supposed to do acts of cheshbon nefesh, of accounting for our soul, to start doing that work that will hit its climax during the high holy days of slicha, of apology, of tshuva, of repentance, and kapara, of atonement, of finding ways to acknowledge the mistakes of the past year, the brokenness of the past year, the missed opportunities, the places where we went astray, to acknowledge them, to weigh the negative, but also the blessings, the sweetnesses, the moments of joy, to really see who am I and where am I in this month, so that we are ready to go into that new year to do and complete all of that incredible work. And over the last month or so, I have been getting amazing invitations and all sorts of incredible ideas for ending this year of 5,781 and preparing for 5,782. One of them was an invitation from 2 different groups to write a reflection, a daily reflection for this month of Elul. And so if you would like, and you'll send me an email if you would like, and we'll set you up to get a daily email that you would receive, and it will have a different reflection from a different rabbi or scholar. And if you watch through the course of the month, you'll see some of my submissions pop up on them. And if you don't want to receive it each day, there are ways we'll give you the link so you can go to the websites where these different Elul reflections are. There's also an incredible program by Hazon, and if you see my email, you'll notice that we are a Hazon seal site. We, through our garden project, do very specific work towards sustainability, taking care of the earth and taking care of each other, and it's through this organization called Hazon. And they have offered their Brit Hazon Challenge, and for everyone that wants to sign up, you get different challenges through the course of the month. It might be reducing your waste, or picking a plant-based diet, or reducing your food waste, using a little bit less electricity, just little challenges. So you say at the beginning of this period of time, here's where I am, and what can I do to make little changes over the course of the month? Very much what Elul is all about. And if that might not be your cup of tea, maybe you want to be part of a Tzedek Bach Challenge. And this is a program that comes from a whole rather incredible width and breadth of our Jewish community, where they said, look, people have tzedakah boxes, and people collect change, and lots of people aren't even using cash anymore. What if we have a tzedek box? What if we have a vessel, a box, in which people, when they come into the place of community, or on a handy little app that they've made, write down the act of tzedek, of justice or righteousness that you've done. And so instead of seeing the kesef, seeing the money accumulate that you can then give to a cause, you actually see accumulate all of these deeds of justice and righteousness. And then later in the year, as these have all compiled and been collected, you have kind of a celebration at the end where you read all of these and look at all of these and see how much tzedakah, how many acts of tzedek that your community has brought into the world. Now, I share that with you, and I tell you about all of these different opportunities, and I realize that this is a lot of stuff in my idea box, that it's on my radar. And this is what it's a strength and a weakness. I have all of these crazy ideas. Sometimes I have too many out-of-the-box ideas or in-the-box ideas, and sometimes it's hard to bring them all together in a meaningful way. And so I was weighing, which one do we do? Is it just the Elul reflections? Is it just the Brit Hazon? Is it the Tzedakah box challenge? Tzedek box challenge, excuse me. Is it just one for our community? Why would I need to tell everybody about each one of them? And as I was weighing that, I came across a Devar Torah for the Haftarah, and for this beginning of Elul, not necessarily for the Torah portion of this week for Elul. And it was offered by Adam Zagoria Moffat, who is a rabbinical student a number of years ago at Jewish Theological Seminary. And what he was saying, and he says, is Elul is this month, and part of it, and a lot of people approach it from a very straightforward way. That through this month of Elul, we say slichot, we say prayers of petition and apology and acknowledgement. We do all of this action because we say, okay, God is out there, I've got to turn myself towards God. And that works for a lot of people, that's what they need to do to get ready for the High Holy Days. But then, he says, that's not always the way it works. He says he gives these two absolutely amazing examples of times where it's not about motivating yourself, but maybe sometimes it's poking at God. And he shows these incredible examples coming from the Talmud. One's from the Talmud and one is from the Zohar. And from Talmud, he gives the example from 1 Samuel of Hannah, wife of Elkanah. And remember, and we'll read this on Rosh Hashanah, that Hannah and Peninnah are both married to Elkanah, and Peninnah has lots of kids, and Hannah has no kids; she is barren. And Peninnah teases Hannah, and Elkanah says, "Don't worry about it," and gives her a double portion. And Hannah is finally desperate to have kids, and that's how we'll read it on Rosh Hashanah. Eventually, Hannah ends up having Samuel, who becomes the prophet and leads to King David and King Solomon, and that whole incredible adventure in the books of the prophets. But the rabbis had a different layer. And they say that at one point, Hannah is so desperate that she threatens to do the Sotah ritual. And this Sotah ritual in Torah is really quite awful and ugly. It involves burning up a sacrifice to ash and putting it in water and then making a woman that you're accusing of adultery drink it. And the way it's set up is if she dies, then it's proof that she's an adulterer, and if she survives, she then eventually gets pregnant because it means she hasn't committed adultery. And the Talmud gives this whole example saying, here is Hannah willing to submit to this awful, humiliating, traumatizing ordeal in order to nudge God to say, look, God, I'm willing to go to this. I want to provoke the response, the corresponding response. I want you to hold up your end of the bargain. If I do all of this, I want you, God, to step up. Pushing back on God in a whole different way. There's a second example, not a human like Hannah in Talmud, but from Zohar. And Zohar is a book of Jewish mysticism. There are lots of copies of Zohar floating around, and you'll get offers of free ones. You're welcome to it, but trying to read it is a whole different kind of experience. And we have been offered multiple copies here at the temple. It is not accessible, except sometimes you'll get incredible nuggets like this. So in Deuteronomy, there's actually a section that says that if you come across a nest with eggs and a mother on the nest, you're supposed to shoo away the mother so you can take the eggs so that you may live a long life. And I think even I just heard our tech team grumble because that doesn't sound right, right? How awful it is that you're shooing the mother so you can take her potential babies so that you can eat them. And there's actually a tremendous amount of debate, discussion. Is that righteous? Why are we being this commanded? Do we have a rationale for it? All sorts of debate of ethics and origin and value. Why are we doing this commandment? But Zohar does something really interesting. It says that there's an angel appointed over the birds. And the angel watches this and goes to God to complain. God of compassion, God of kindness, God of caring and grace. Why are you doing this? How could you have a commandment that is so cruel to the birds? And God looks at the angel and looks at the other angels and says, look, this one's concerned about birds, But not a single one of you angels came forward to complain about the separation between the divine presence and the people of Israel exiled on earth. Did you catch that? The angels complain about one thing and God pushes them back. God states in his frustration, fine, if the angels won't stand up and take care of humanity, I'll go ahead and do it. The angels in their complaint and God answering back in, why are you complaining about this and you haven't complained about something that is just as significant? It somehow moves God, convinces God, empowers God to then say, fine, I'll take care of the problem and make this a place of compassion and kindness and take care of the people of Israel. It's great. Here we are at the beginning of this journey towards Rosh Hashanah, entering this time of penitential prayers, and it's worth thinking about seeing both of those sides, seeing those two completely different approaches. Are we, as we do this month of Elul, are we trying to move ourselves? Or are we trying to challenge the forces in the world to live up to their highest value? Are we trying to challenge God? Are we trying to wrestle with our tradition? Are we trying to move the universe into a place where it is full of chen and chesed and rachamim? Which one is it? Are we like that the slichot? We like Hannah and Zohar. It's a really rather incredible question. It's a beautiful challenge to us. And as I offer that to you, and I hope you're pondering and thinking about which is it for that you need to move yourself, or you want to poke the universe to get it to the place where it needs to be, and I'll look to you and say, it doesn't matter which of those approaches you take. Isn't that the beauty of it? It really doesn't actually matter. What matters is that you do something. This rabbinical student, in offering this analysis, says there are all of these different ways, and both of them are saying act. It's a means, not an ends. It's not like there's one way to do the petition. It's the fact that you just need to do it. It's not about doing it a right way, but it's conscious. It's active with mindfulness and intent, taking this month of Elul, whichever way it is, and finding a way to feel it, to do it, lift it with kavod, with honor, feeling the weight so you are moved and the universe is moved. And so that's why I offer all of these different approaches, whether it's daily Elul reading that come to your inbox, that catch your attention and say, wait a second, what is a way for me to work this day? Or it's the Brit Hazon challenge, that you need to do some composting at home, or think about the lights that you need to turn off, ways you might need to conserve water, or remembering when you get out of your car, take the canvas bags into the store with you. Or maybe it's the tzedek challenge. Maybe you've never thought about stopping and writing down, whether it's every day, once a week, some of the acts of tzedek, of justice and righteousness that you've done. All sorts of different ways as individuals and as a community. Even in the midst of this pandemic, even when we are so separated, whether we need to motivate ourselves or get God riled up, can we find one or more activities, whether it's through our congregation or out in the wider world, to join, so that we and our community can do the acts of reflection that come with these tasks, that we can do the acts of repentance and repair that we need to do, and finish this year, as I said, consciously, actively, with mindfulness and intent. Can we finish this year with strength, being empowered, so that we can go into this new year, leaving one year with strength and entering the new year with strength? Ken Yehi Ratzon, be that God's will.